We all know the feeling, being told that the world's biggest danger could strike at any time without notice. When we were kids, it seemed like the most terrifying thing that could happen was getting caught in a pit of quicksand. However, it turns out that movies and TV shows exaggerate the threat of quicksand, and the chances of actually encountering it are incredibly slim. But why did it seem so scary back then? And what exactly is quicksand? Today, we're diving into why quicksand haunted our childhoods. Before we start sinking, though, subscribe to our channel and drop a comment about what unusual historical topic you'd like us to explore next. Now let's jump in. Figuratively, of course. Most of us probably picture quicksand based on scenes from our favorite movies or TV shows. In cinema history, quicksand was a go-to peril for heroes, villains, and sidekicks alike. From the fire swamp in The Princess Bride to the terrifying moment in The Never-Ending Story, quicksand seemed like a staple of 80s entertainment. Believe it or not, quicksand scenes were so popular during that decade that 1 out of every 75 films included one. These scenes varied wildly. Sometimes the quicksand swallowed people instantly, while other times it was a slow process. Whether it was fine and dusty or thick and muddy, the outcome was always the same: panic and terror. The idea of suddenly sinking into the ground while walking peacefully hit some primal fear in our brains. It represented not only a physical danger, but a fear of the unknown, of being trapped in a situation we couldn't escape. It's probably one reason quicksand appeared so frequently in stories from past decades. However, the 1980s were not the beginning of quicksand in media, nor were they the peak. Although the era gave its twist to the sinking sand trope, it built on a much older tradition. Some of the earliest stories featuring quicksand go back almost 1,000 years, long before Hollywood got its hands on the idea. One ancient tale tells of King Harold rescuing soldiers stuck in the mud before the Norman conquest of England. By Shakespeare's time, quicksand was being used in literature as a metaphor for deceit. And by the 19th century, it was a common theme in American Wild West stories. Fast forward to the 1960s, quicksand became a metaphor in the real world as well, particularly during the Vietnam War, where it symbolized the United States being dragged into a conflict from which it couldn't escape. The film Lawrence of Arabia, 1962, which won 7 Oscars, helped cement quicksand in the public imagination with a dramatic scene involving a boy sinking into the sand. By the end of the 1960s, 3% of all films included quicksand scenes. Although the trend faded by the 90s, quicksand still popped up occasionally in later films, though often as a joke or throwback to earlier action movies. By the time the 2000s rolled around, quicksand had become something of a cultural punchline. Even popular shows like Lost avoided using it. The show's executive producer, Carlton Cuse, said they feared it would come across as too cheesy. In fact, by the early 2000s, quicksand was already considered old-fashioned and had been debunked by shows like Mythbusters. They proved that quicksand couldn't kill you the way it did in the movies. While quicksand may not be as deadly as Hollywood made it seem, it's not entirely harmless. Real quicksand is usually just a few feet deep, and thanks to the buoyancy of the human body, people don't tend to sink very far. But it can trap you, and in rare cases, lead to more dangerous situations, such as drowning if you're near water with a rising tide. Tragic incidents, like the deaths of 2 people in recent years, remind us that quicksand can still pose a threat if the circumstances are right. The key to surviving quicksand is staying calm. Thrashing around can make things worse, so it's better to lean back, spread your weight, and slowly wriggle your legs to create space and free yourself. So, were you ever afraid of quicksand as a kid? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for watching this video. Before we end the video, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next video.